Thank you. Okay, good afternoon all, and welcome to the Plan Committee. The first item on our agenda, apologies for absence. I know we've had a few.
Yeah, Mike Lewis, Paul Smith, and Linda Taylor Lloyd, Chair.
Thank you. Who others? I think that's it then, yeah. Okay. Item 2, any disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests? Are there any? No. Okay. Item 3 is to approve and sign the minutes of the previous meeting. That's the correct record. We begin now at page 1. This is February's meeting, page 2, page 3 and 4, page 5, page 6 and page 7. Somebody move them as a usual record.
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 4 then, are there any items for deferral or withdrawal?
Chair, item 1, the populous fund flow. It's been brought to our attention this morning that site notices which were due to be displayed to notify local residents that the application was being considered at committee today and given the opportunity to address committee have not been displayed. As a result, we recommend that the application be deferred to allow the local residents and parties the opportunity to address the future committee.
Yeah. Members, what are your wishes? Should we defer?
Can I ask the legal officer? I know this has been raised before. Is there a legal obligation for this to be done?
Yes.
There is.
Yeah.
And what is that?
Come on, Chair. Legal.
Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. We have raised an expectation that people would be allowed to give representations at committee. And by not posting the notice as we normally would, we are depriving people of that opportunity to come and address the committee. So potentially the council could be open to a judicial review application. It may not seem particularly likely, but I think to err on the side of caution, I would recommend it is deferred because we've raised an expectation which we can't meet.
Yeah, I understand that, Jonathan, but it's hit and miss, isn't it? I mean, with all these LDP sites, they were only put up spasmodically about 3 or 4 notices in sort of prominent positions, but people will say, well, I didn't see that. So the whole upon flu, for instance, hardly anybody could see it unless they actually went and stood on a periphery of the site. Am I right in saying that? Because you don't send them to household, the people that are living there, you don't send anything to their houses. It's just a notice which is put on the periphery, wherever that may be, and hoping that the public, that's good enough for the public.
I think where there are objections on a site, as there have been here, so we've raised the expectations. A number of people have objected, so it would be fair for them to have the opportunity then to come and address the committee if they wanted to. But ultimately, it is a matter for members to decide.
Yeah, I 100% agree on that, Jonathan. But it's a case of those specific objectors. Surely they could be notified by post or email or something directly, because they have expressed their interest in this particular application and have objected. So, is there any reason why we don't do that?
If there are only 1 or 2 representations on an application, we will notify those individuals by post. In the case of an application like this where there's quite a number of objections, then we tend to advertise by way of a site notice rather than individual letters being sent through the post.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Downing?
Yeah, the same vein as Will. It's a case of how far from the site do we put these notices? Because the site on Christopher Rise is right at the top by the roundabout. So I know people know that it's there, but they don't know that the meet is today. So it's a case of how far from that site do we actually put any notices up? And that's my only concern. Well, not with this, with other sites as well, but I won't go into them.
Yeah,
In this case, Chair, we got 5 notices, so we would put down Christopher Rise, Woodlands Avenue on the
Is right to defer, but there's some tremendous. So, is it agreed then that we defer the item for the next meeting? Councillor Black.
Yeah, I was going to support defer. I think there is actually a requirement in law to actually advertise on site anyway. So if we fail to put those notices up within the specified time, then we are subject to possible maladministration proceedings to the Ombudsman and as Jonathan said, possible challenge in the court. So I think we have to defer.
Yeah, well, I right as well. So
Can I ask? I agree with Councillor Black, but I'm not convinced because during my time as a councillor, I've raised this a couple of times with legal, and they said, well, really, there's no legal obligation to do it. And now we're saying there is. So can you send out to the members the legal requirement that states precisely that we must issue notices for these planning applications with objections?
Yep.
If I could just come in there, Chair, a second. We're talking about the 2 different things here. There's the notice we put up to inform people of the application, which has been done in this case at the beginning, and then we're talking about today a notice informing people that the planning committee was today, and that's what hasn't been done. So the original notice was put up, but I'm happy to send a note to members on this subject afterwards if that would assist.
Well, if we compelled to do it, I agree with Councillor Black. You got to do it, so there's no problem. There's no ifs or buts about it, and I'd be voting to postpone it. But I just want 100% clarification that is this absolutely necessary.
For this notice, I would say no, it isn't. But like I said, we've raised an expectation with people, and because this is our process, our procedure that we do inform where there are objections, and we haven't complied with our own process by not putting up the notice now. So there is a possibility then that someone could say, look, you haven't complied with your own policy and procedures, and so they could launch a legal challenge. So we haven't got a strict requirement to put this particular notice up. But I would, my recommendation would be to defer. But obviously, it is a matter for members if you to make the decision.
Sorry, Chair, I was confusing the 2 different notices. But I agree with Jonathan. If we normally do it, then it would be expected of us.
Yeah, so you're certainly right. We'll have the opportunity to address the committee and be heard. So I just do you want to take a formal vote?
Well, is there anybody against?
Yeah, do it that way. Is anyone against deferring?
No.
Okay, so we'll never do that. Thank you all very much. So we've had one to be deferred, and then we move on to item. We move on to item 5, which is determination of planning applications under the Town and Country Planning Act of 1990. And so the only item we will have now then would be item 2, which is Community Carrier Quarry, which you find on page 67. Andrew?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So yeah, Ian's got a presentation on this one. It's an application for 2 dwellings on Cymru de Cairo Quarry. If you can go to the site plan. Thank you, Ian. The application's being reported to Planning Committee as the outline application was submitted with an environmental statement. So that's the only reason it's come into committee. Members will recall that outline planning permission was granted on appeal by the Welsh ministers in the January of 2018 for the cessation of the landfill and the residential development of the site for circa 300 houses. So that's the land shown in blue, and the land shown in red is that subject to this application. So the current site comprises the reserved matters for 2 dwellings and some localised amendments to the surrounding plots in phases 2 and 3 of the site on the eastern side of the quarry basin. Members may recall that reserved matters for phases 3 and 4 were reported to committee in November and December of last year. If you can go to the next slide, please, Ian. Thank you. This is just basically a Google Maps shot of the outline site, which comprises a small area on the right-hand side of the quarry basin. So you'll note that phase 1A is visible on the aerial image in the top left of the site, and the remainder of the site has been cleared with the quarry basin in the centre, encircled with greenery. And you've got Morrison Golf Club adjoining the site to the south. If you can go to the layout, please, Ian. Thank you. So the slide shows the layout as proposed on the left-hand side, with the previously approved layout on the inset and the right, with the plots previously omitted clearly indicated in red. The current application seeks permission for a pair of semi-detached 3-bed dwellings that are now proposed on the southern side of the cul-de-sac. So those are shown in the pinky red colour, along with some localised amendments to the turning head and the rear gardens of adjoining properties. So in terms of the history, these two plots were originally omitted following concerns from the local highways authority, and rather than seek to resolve the issue as part of the previous application, they just omitted them and said they'd come in at a later date as per their prerogative, and that's what they've done. So the pavement on the southern side of the turning head has been reduced in width marginally. You'll note a bin storage location has been added, which is shown in purple, and there's additional tree planting now around the cul-de-sac. If you can go to the next slide, please, Ian. These are the elevations. The properties are 2 times 3-bed Tetfords that have been approved elsewhere within phase 3. They've got red brick with grey roof tiles, and the 2.5-storey design with a dormer roof on the front elevation, as you can see in the top left-hand corner. Very briefly, on the right-hand side, you've got the floor plans indicating a lounge and dining area at ground floor, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom at first floor level in the middle, and a bedroom with an ensuite in the roof. So important to note that the existing permission has been commenced and remains extant, and the principle and layout is therefore acceptable. No objections have been received to the scheme from any residents, and there have been no objections from strategic planning and placemaking, the council's tree officer, ecologist, Dŵr Cymru Welsh Water, drainage, or the local highways authority on balance. So the proposal would provide for an active frontage and overlooking into the cul-de-sac with increased tree planting and landscaping that's welcomed. There are no issues in terms of residential amenity within the site. 2 parking spaces for each property are proposed, which are commensurate with other dwellings on site, and the proposal is considered to be acceptable overall. So the officer recommendation is for approval subject to the conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Very much. Any member wish to speak? No? No. Councillor Black.
Yeah, sorry, I'm assuming that the access to this site was being dealt with on the bigger application, because it does appear to me that where it comes out opposite Cymru Carry School, it does seem to be quite limited in terms of visibility, but I assume that was dealt with on the bigger application, and this is just to deal with the detail further down into the site.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, that's correct. The access has all been approved into the various phases to date, apart from, as I said, so the only reserved matters application that's outstanding is phase 5 in the quarry basin.
Okay, it does seem to me to be quite tight accessing that development from up there, but you know, if highways are happy, then I'm happy.
Right. No other members wish to speak? No? Okay, we're going to see the recommendation now is one to approve. You can see on page 81. So we can take a vote on that recommendation now then. Yeah, Councillor Sir Anderson. Peter Black.
4.
Phil Brandon.
4.
Will Evans.
4.
Richard Lewis.
4.
Des Thomas.
4.
Mike White.
4.
Paul. Yeah, that's 4. Oh, Mr. Harris. Check. 4 here. Okay, thank you very much. And, that concludes our business today. So we'll see you all very soon. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.